Welcome to another episode on the People Productivity Channel, where you are the product and a better you is the solution. Today I have on an old friend, Stan Robinson. Stan actually helped me years ago when I first started putting my branding and profile out on LinkedIn. He was an expert in that area at that time. And, we stayed in touch over the years. Now Stan, is out there helping people with digital selling. We're going to cover that today. And by the way, it's relevant for you even if you're not in sales, because everybody's got to sell themselves online. You have a brand, you got to sell yourself. You may even have to reinvent yourself. But before we get into it, why don't we let my buddy Stan introduce himself. Stan, buddy.
Frank, thanks for having me, and it was great to reconnect. I'm so glad you reached out.
Yep.
So I am Director of Training and Coaching at Vengreso, and we're an organization that specializes in helping sales teams create more sales conversations with qualified decision makers. So I look forward to today's call.
Yeah. So, this is going to be relevant for everybody, even if they're not in sales, because, you'll learn things that you need to be doing online that are going to help you. We're in an era where so many people have to reinvent themselves. A lot of old jobs and things are going away. People need to get out there, reinvent themselves, brand themselves, and start selling themselves so they can move into new positions. So we're going to cover both. I think it's a good topic. But, Stan, what is digital selling anyway? People talk about this stuff, may not be a real agreement in terms of what it is. How does Vengreso frame it?
In digital selling or social selling is one of those terms that a lot of people use, and we all think we mean the same thing by it, but not necessarily. So in our world, we frame it as doing what we've always been doing in terms of expanding existing relationships and creating new relationships, which in turn lead to sales opportunity. The digital part of it is now that there's a whole new suite of tools available to people as far as how to do that, in addition to what we've been using like email and the phone and in-person meetings. So we can talk more about the tools that are available, but it's not replacing, I want to say face-to-face, but in today's environment, it's usually like we're doing now via Zoom.
Yeah.
It's not replacing that. It's not replacing email. It's not replacing the phone. It is using these tools in addition to. And we can get into more detail if you like.
Yeah, and as a professional, for the most part, it's really focused on LinkedIn, correct?
LinkedIn is a big piece of the puzzle because it is the world's largest online professional network. And there are ways that every professional, whether you're in sales or not, can use the tool to advance themselves.
Now, LinkedIn is a bit like your resume, isn't it? Really?
It's funny. Even though LinkedIn is lumped in with all the other social networks, it actually started before Facebook. And it started as a professional network such that people could basically digitize their Rolodex. For those of us who remember the Rolodex, I realize some of the listeners
Thank God
may
they're
say,
gone. Oh my God.
Yeah. Some of the listeners may have heard of those, but these days your Rolodex is in your Outlook and on your phone. But even though most people think of LinkedIn as their online resume, okay, if I'm looking for a job, I set up a LinkedIn profile. If I'm not looking for a job, if I'm a business owner, why in the world do I need an online resume? Well, the answer is that LinkedIn goes way beyond your online resume. I suggest that everyone watching this call, Google your name and see what comes back in Google. Because if you have a LinkedIn profile, your LinkedIn profile should come up in the top 1 or 2 search results on Google for your name.
Unless you're John Smith. Right?
Yes. Now you may have to search a while to find the right John Smith, to find you.
Right. But you'll come up.
But you will come up. And the point is that in today's environment, if someone is considering a business relationship with you, they're going to look for you on Google and or LinkedIn, period.
Yeah, I agree.
And you should be doing the same thing.
Over the years, I've always typed in, my name to see what came up. And
Yes.
it was interesting. I wrote a book, and then I guess Google, eventually they put my name up with information about me on the right, kind of an author
Mm,
profile.
yeah.
And, they were getting it and it was some invalid information. I was able to actually reach out and have them put in a request to change that. It was very interesting. I succeeded.
Ah,
Yeah.
okay.
So there's
Okay.
so much people could do with it. I mean, really.
Exactly. Exactly. And so even if you're not job hunting, you still have a professional or personal brand, which
Mhm.
is basically how people see you. And whether we like it or not, I'm a baby boomer. When social media came out, I had no interest in putting my face anywhere online. But that horse has left the barn a long time ago.
Oh, yeah.
So if we want to remain relevant, we need to have an intentional professional brand. And LinkedIn's a big part of that. So take advantage of the tool to present yourself professionally the way that you want to present both yourself and as a business owner or as a sales professional, your business.
Yeah.
So if you're not taking advantage of that on LinkedIn, you're missing a huge opportunity.
I think that, many people have failed to take advantage of it. And unfortunately, many people wake up late, like, I'll get calls from people, hey, I'm in transition. What do you think I should do? And then, I give them advice and tell them to start building their brand online. But everybody should be building it now, regardless, because
Exactly.
they have a point of view on stuff that matters to other people. They could do it.
Yeah. So dig the well before you need it, which has always been true.
Yeah.
Build your professional network. That was true long before LinkedIn came. It's
Yeah.
just that now LinkedIn is a critical tool that will help you build the network and the brand, Frank, that you're talking about.
Yeah. And, most people forgot that they have a marketing department. They happen to run it, as an individual,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Um, so anyway, so why is it so relevant for sales? That's the business Vengreso's in.
Yeah. From a sales standpoint, um, the latest statistic is that we're primarily in the business to business environment, but the latest stat is that about 62% of decision makers will look at a salesperson's LinkedIn profile before taking a meeting with them.
That makes sense, actually.
It makes perfect sense. And that number's only going to go up.
You bet.
Now, again, we're talking about sales, but even if you're not in sales, the same is true of you. If someone is thinking of hiring you, giving you money as an investment, partnering with you, they're going to look at your LinkedIn profile.
Yeah.
So when it comes to sales, we want to teach salespeople not to position their LinkedIn profile like an online resume, but to position themselves as a resource to their potential buyers that
Hmm.
goes beyond just their ability to sell them something, but it extends to their ability to offer their prospective buyer insights into their industry and other ideas that they can use to do their jobs more effectively.
Hmm.
And your LinkedIn profile structured correctly, explaining how you help your buyers solve a business problem, can do that for you as a sales professional.
Yeah, big time. And actually, it matters for every professional, correct?
Exactly. Exactly. And I know that the tendency is to talk about LinkedIn um, as your online brand, and that's the first piece of the puzzle. But
Uh-huh.
to me, the real power of LinkedIn beyond that is how you can use it proactively to find and reach out to other professionals. Because yes, it's important to have a profile that presents your brand correctly. But then once you do that, the idea is not to sit back and wait for people to come to you and find you.
Yeah, it's a big world.
It is a big world.
Yeah.
So one of the things that's very powerful about the tool is that you can go search for people based on their company, their industry, their title, where they went to school. And if you're in sales, you can use that to help you identify your prospects. If you're not in sales, you can use those filters to intelligently expand your professional network.
Yeah, connect, connect, connect.
Exactly.
Yeah. I think that's in some ways the best advice, right? Only connect, just connect with people. People have so many connections and others they've met in life. Like
Yeah.
reflexively over the years, I meet people and blah, blah, blah. I'll connect with them on LinkedIn now just to make a part of the network because you just don't know who they're connected to.
You hit something that's really key. Two things. Number one, you connect with people that you've met.
Mhm.
So if you know them and they know you, you need to connect on LinkedIn. Because the question often comes up, well, who should I connect with? Do I connect with everyone who invites me? Well, the short of it is your strategy should be the same as you would use at a Chamber of Commerce meeting whenever those restart. If someone makes a good business connection for you in real life,
Mhm.
they make a good business connection for you on LinkedIn. The same rules apply.
Yeah.
But
Agreed.
the other side, Frank, that you mentioned that a lot of people miss is that you don't know who other people are connected to.
That's right.
So if you're a business owner, for example, you're looking for investors, a high school friend of yours could live next door to someone who could invest in your business, but
Mhm.
you would never know that unless you were connected to your high school friend on LinkedIn, because through LinkedIn, you can see who they're in turn connected to.
Yeah, I think that's super important. And I look, I'm a firm believer that, I'm connecting with people to be in a position to help them,
Exactly.
right? I think that people should do it sincerely, right? I'm not connected with people
Exactly.
just because they might one day do something for me. I've been able to help a ton of people through LinkedIn.
Exactly. Yep. So
And
it's people that you can help and who you think can help you as well.
that's
It's a
right.
two-way street.
Oftentimes people are happy to help, honestly. It's part of
Yes.
human nature, right?
Yes.
So now, what you're suggesting is that really the people who are selling should be spending much more time online. I think that's hard to argue with. But there are some old-fashioned managers who are like, I don't want all my people spend their time online. They got to be talking to people.
Yep.
Get out there. Do you hear that often?
We do hear that all the time, and you can appreciate everyone's concern because social media can be a huge time suck.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
how
done right.
many of us
Yeah.
have gone on Facebook for 5 minutes and looked up 40 minutes later? But here's the thing, when sales professionals know, and this isn't something, at the risk of sounding self-serving, this is not something that people are just going to pick up on their own or check out a few YouTube videos about how to use LinkedIn for sales
Yeah.
and understand how to use it correctly. It does take training, but when salespeople know how to use the tool, they devote a certain amount of time in their calendars to specific sales-related activity
Mhm.
on LinkedIn. The ROI, the return on investment from that activity, can be enormous. Because done correctly, the time that you spend on LinkedIn looking for people, connecting with the decision makers you need to connect with, and starting to build relationships with them, which can start on LinkedIn, but then the goal is to take it to email, to text messages, to phone calls, to
Yeah.
Zoom meetings.
Well,
That's the goal.
I think COVID, moved us into this new world where work from anywhere. The reality is it's buy from anywhere, hire from anywhere, sell to anyone anywhere.
Yeah.
You can't do that unless you're on these, social platforms, particularly LinkedIn.
Yes, um, the fact is that COVID has accelerated the pace of people realizing that we need to learn how to use these digital tools more effectively.
Unbelievable, yeah.
Yeah.
And the importance of, the human factor in everything.
Yes. Yes. Last time I checked, bots don't write checks.
Yeah,
It's still humans. So
yeah,
one thing is never going to change is the need for person-to-person relationships.
yeah.
It's just that now we're using different channels to start those relationships, to reach out to people, to find people. And then we do it as we always have: email, phone, Zoom meetings, sometime in the future, face to face again.
Yeah. Um, do you have, what are kind of the best practices in terms of people really getting content out there so that they can, in fact, get a following, have an opportunity, maybe open relationships or engage people online?
Yep, it's a great question that you mentioned content, because that's an important part of building your brand.
Hmm.
And the challenge that a lot of us have is that most of us are not content creators.
Yeah, that's
We don't get paid
hard.
for writing blog posts or creating videos. But there are a couple of things. I'll tell one quick story. Our CEO, Mario Martinez Jr., talks about an email that he got from a C-suite executive saying, "I've been following your content on LinkedIn for
Mhm.
27 months, and now I want to talk to Vengreso about your solutions."
Wow, 27 months.
27 months. So most people on LinkedIn are lurkers, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
They're on there, they're consuming content. One of the reasons they go to LinkedIn is to learn more about how to do their jobs more effectively. So when you're posting content that's relevant for your audience, a lot of them are consuming that, even if you don't know it, even if they don't click
Yeah.
like, even if they don't comment, they're reading it. So that's why, Frank, as you mentioned, you want to be posting content. Now, the good news is that you don't have to create it. You can take content that's been created by other people, share it. Now, you notice I didn't say copy and paste it.
Right.
Share it so
Absolutely.
that people, the author gets the proper attribution, but just share it and add your comment about why you think this article by Frank Wander is important to your audience.
Hmm.
And that helps to position you as someone who's knowledgeable, who's providing relevant and helpful content to their audience, even though you didn't create it.
Hmm.
Because your audience doesn't have time to go and read everything that's been published about what can help them do their job.
Yeah, I mean, look, people can curate content, make it available to others, share it, and that's a very valuable service because you're filtering the billions of things going on and, whittling it down.
Exactly.
We posted a very interesting interview on this channel last week, and all of them are available on our website at peopleproductive.com. But this woman, Tracy Sponenberg, who is a CHRO, chief people officer, had decided that, somebody needed to help drive the need to reinvent HR to make it, much
Mhm.
more focused on the human side, agile. So I got her on, and she just started by going out and doing some blogs, and then took over a chapter of reinvent HR, which is all located all over,
Mhm.
and then started another channel. So people can do this. The only reason I bring this
Yes.
up is that everybody can, if they're motivated, can have a point of view and get content out there and get followers. It could be just curating it, could be writing original content, but people have stuff that's valuable to offer. They have
Exactly.
things they're really interested in. And
Exactly.
this whole notion of being out there and creating content and building relationships really matters more than ever. We're now, we're over the chasm into the digital world. It happened.
Yes. Yes. Exactly. And you used the word that I was looking for, which is curating content. It's just getting good at finding content. And there are tools. There's
Mhm.
a tool called Feedly, feedly.com, and that aggregate content, because one of the toughest things for a lot of people is figuring out, okay, I don't have time to go to Fortune, to my industry publications, and look for all these posts and then, like you said, filter. That
Yeah.
takes time. But there are automated tools to help you find the content, bring it all to one place so that you can pick from a much smaller list. And then there are other tools that will help you distribute that content, that you can actually use to schedule the content out so that you're not trying to do it every day, which
Sure.
gets to be impossible.
It gets to be impossible. Yeah, I think getting one of those scheduling tools, do you have any you recommend to people?
There are tools like Everyone Social, which we use. There are tools like Hootsuite, Buffer. So those are a couple of examples. I mentioned Hootsuite because they have a free version
Yeah,
that particularly, say, a small business owner can use to start scheduling and distributing content. Feedly that I mentioned, which is kind of a content aggregator, is free, or at least there's a free version. Most of these tools always have a free and a paid version.
yeah. I mean, that's one of the great things about the internet is that all of these, online tools, most of them have a free tier and they're very powerful.
Yes. Yeah, they save people time.
They save a lot of time. But I think it's super important that people, go out and just start doing something. Figure out who you want to be online. And the 60% of people looking at, a salesperson's LinkedIn before they take an appointment, that's going to be 100 soon. It's got to be.
Yeah. Yeah, that they should
And
be,
we've
they should
crossed the
definitely be doing
chasm.
that.
It's a digital world now. The whole, work from anywhere, hire from anywhere, lead from anywhere, sell from anywhere. That is where we're at, and it's not going back.
Yes, yes. And one thing that you mentioned, and this is more for the sales audience, but when people think about digital selling, the power of the digital part is primarily in the process of getting to hello with the prospect. The actual process of selling, explaining the benefits of the product and going and negotiating, all that's best done email, phone, in-person meetings, or Zoom meetings.
The classic sales cycle. So this is about
Right,
the pipeline. This is getting to all those people, and it's the digital sales pipeline, right?
precisely. Because about 40% of sales professionals say that prospecting and building their pipeline is the most challenging part of the sales process.
Hmm.
But when it comes to the, like you said, the sales process itself, you don't want to try and sell people in LinkedIn posts or in direct messages. No, you want to do that via email, via the phone, like you've always done.
Yeah.
But when it comes to finding the people, like you mentioned, Frank, raising your level of visibility by posting content with your audience, that's where LinkedIn comes in.
Hmm.
So I just make that distinction because a lot of people say, well, this is how I've always sold, so I'll start promoting my product on LinkedIn now and reach a lot more people. No, please don't do that, because what turns people off is if everything you're posting is just promotional content about you and your company.
Oh yeah. People are looking for things that are of interest that could help them. You got to help
Exactly.
people. And
Exactly.
that is the world we're in. You've got to help people, and what goes around comes around. So,
Exactly. And helping people may not always be directly related to your solution. If you see an opportunity to put out content that just helps people with their life,
yeah.
in the environment that we're living in, people are trying to figure out, okay, do I send my kids back to school? If there's a good article that you find on that, share it.
Yeah. And don't be afraid to tell people, hey, somebody does this better than we do. Go over here. Get
Yeah,
them the right solution. They'll trust you.
exactly. Very true.
Very important, I think. So where do you see digital selling going now that all the masses are finally converging into this whole digital sales world? What's going to happen with this?
Well, one one piece of advice, and again, at the risk of sounding self-serving, don't go it alone, because you mentioned best practices before. There are best practices in digital selling these days, so there's no need to reinvent the wheel.
Mhm.
So whether you use a company like us, Vengreso, or someone else, learn from someone who's done it.
Mhm.
Okay, at this point, we've trained about over 140,000 sellers on how to use digital selling best practices. The other thing is, in terms of what's coming, video, which is not so much what's coming, but it's here.
Yeah.
And what we're doing right now is synchronous video. We're talking to each other live, so to speak.
Mhm.
What a lot of people are finding is that there are also great applications for asynchronous video, which is simply a fancy way of saying you create a video and then you share it. And you don't need to have a studio. You have a smartphone, you can take a video of yourself talking about a topic that's of interest to your audience and post that.
Yeah, I see a lot of that going on.
Yep.
A
Yep.
lot.
Exactly.
I
And
I probably about a year ago, I came across this guy. It was the end of the day with Ray, and literally started in his dining room with his phone up, his dining room cabinet in the background, talking about his market, which is the imaging marketplace. But what's wrong with it? Where's the future? And it'd be always just a few minutes every day. And he did very well. He got a following. He finally, upgraded, got a digital monitor where he can move things around and make it a little more engaging for the audience. But it doesn't have to be fancy. It's just got to be
right,
valuable.
right, right, exactly. Because that's what stops a lot of people is they say, I don't have the money to invest in all this equipment.
Yeah.
If you have a smartphone and some knowledge of what to do, it's all you need to get started.
Yeah.
Because the other thing, Frank, is that people are not looking for perfection today when it comes to that. They're looking for what can help me do my job better.
Yeah. I love how the whole world's gone casual. Used to be, you needed a suit, then it was dressed down. Used to be you needed a studio to do video. Now it could be your dining room.
Yeah,
Hey,
exactly,
it's
exactly.
casual, dressed down world, even for video, which is fine.
Yes, yeah, and there's a place for everything. If people have the resources, they can produce, elaborate videos and so forth. But you don't need that to get started.
Mhm.
It-
So what do you think some of the common mistakes are that people make with this?
One we talked about, which is trying to sell.
The self-serving promotion stuff. Yeah.
Exactly. Rather than answering that what's in it for me question that your audience always has. That should be your focus.
So that's the biggest mistake people make, right? Getting out and just putting marketing material out. Like who cares?
Exactly. They just
Go to a
take their
website.
marketing material, they post it online, and they think they're being effective.
Yeah.
And that is a huge mistake. Um, that is probably the biggest one, is trying to just purely be promotional rather than being helpful and
Yeah.
being a resource
I
for
think
people.
that's true. That's why I started this whole video series, to provide value to people.
Yes.
And it's not necessarily, we're in the human capital productivity business, human performance engineering. So this was really designed to help people and
Yeah.
give them content so they can learn to do things better. And that's why it's great to have you on, Stan. You have a
Well,
great point of view and great experience in this area. You're one of the first people training me on LinkedIn. So I was always grateful.
yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you. I'll mention one other big mistake because this extends beyond sales, and that's not putting on the hat of your audience and looking at things through their eyes.
Hmm.
We're always used to talking about our solution, but the
Yeah.
person you're talking to only cares about how you can help them. And
Yeah, for sure.
it's always surprising how many businesses don't have a clear understanding of what's important to the audience they're trying to serve, what's important to their buyers.
Yeah.
So that precedes LinkedIn and all the tools that we've been talking about. You have to have a clear understanding of what's important to your audience,
Oh,
whether
for
it's
sure.
buyers, employees, investors. Doesn't just apply to sales.
Yeah. And, that really, I think, raises the point that they should be talking to people and saying, what are your biggest concerns? What's keeping you up at night? What are you worried about? What's going on in your industry? And they should educate themselves and capture that point of view because people are happy to share.
Yep. Frank, you keep taking the words out of my mouth. People are happy to share it. They will tell you if you ask them.
Yeah.
It's just that most of the times we don't ask.
Yeah. It's funny, but that's the same thing with, employees. If you really care, you can ask, what, hey, what should we be doing better? They're happy to tell you if you actually are going to do something about it. If they think you're just
Yes.
they think you don't care and you're just trying to do it to, because it's the right thing to do as opposed to really act on it, then in fact, they're not going to share much with you because you're a phony.
Yep, yep, and that's a whole nother conversation. But absolutely, if you ask the question, you better be ready for the answer. And as you said, Frank, to take action on the answer. And so that one's definitely a bigger conversation about trust
Yeah,
and exactly.
big time. So, hey, any parting thoughts for our audience as they get excited to get out there and, start doing some digital selling and branding?
Yes, just get started. Realize that you don't have to sit down, for example, and rewrite your entire LinkedIn profile in one sitting. Do things gradually. Take baby steps. There are a ton of free resources on our website, vengreso.com. So even though, yes, we offer profile makeovers where our team will rewrite the profile for you, we offer training. But if you're motivated, you can go to our YouTube videos at vengreso.com and you can learn everything that we've talked about.
Yeah, I think they should go to vengreso.com as a free resource because you guys do have a lot of interesting stuff out there. It's valuable.
Yeah, yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
So yeah, and Frank, this has been great. It's been
Yeah.
great.
Oh, absolutely. Listen, definitely look forward to staying in touch and wish
Absolutely.
you all the best as always. And to our audience, thanks for tuning in. Take care. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.